reported yesterday that Trae Young and his agents, they are working with the Atlanta Hawks on a trade out of the franchise. Now, Young's representatives in the Hawks, they have started collaborative talks over the last week on finding a resolution.
The Hawks might finally be ready to move on from Trae Young before making a big push for Anthony Davis, and things are heating up fast. According to Shams, Trae and his agents are already working with the Hawks on a trade deal, which says a lot. It's clear the new front office has a whole different vision, and Trae just doesn't fit in anymore. He's starting to look like the next John Wall or LaMelo Ball situation. Super talented, but a defensive liability that teams hesitate to pay top dollar for. But here's where it gets wild. Mark Stein reports that the Wizards have actually stepped in as a real trade contender for Trae Young, with talks centered around CJ McCollum's expiring contract. Hold up, the Wizards? Now that's a twist. Think about it. They've got a roster full of young talent, and now they're considering tossing Trae Young into the mix? What's the plan here? To hang up play-in tournament banner or something? People are already roasting them online, saying the Wizards are the only ones bold enough to do it. Still, here's the crazy part. Out of all the teams in the league, the Wizards might actually be the one spot where a Trae Young trade actually makes sense. Once you see the full trade details, you'll realize the Wizards would be out of their minds not to pull the trigger on this deal. Now back to the juicy part. This trade could be massive for Anthony Davis. But before we even get to what AD on the Hawks might look like, we gotta rewind and talk about Trae Young again. Over the last 4 years, the Wizards have been deep in tank mode trying to collect draft picks. In 2022, they took a swing on Johnny Davis, total bust, basically out of the league already. Then in 2023, they tried to bounce back by trading for Bilal, hoping he'd be the spark they needed. Alright, check this out. The Wizards have some solid young talent right now, guys like Bilal, then Alex Sarr, who's already flashing star potential, and now shooting guard Trae Johnson coming in hot. But here's the catch. All these players share one big issue. They don't have a real floor general to run the show. They need someone who can create shots, control the pace, and set the tone for the whole offense. They've already experimented with Jordan Poole and even CJ McCollum, but let's be real, neither one has clicked like they hoped. That's where Trae Young comes in, because this dude is straight up rocket fuel for any offense. Say what you want about his defense, but offensively, the man's a genius. You've got to be insanely talented on that end of the floor to be that bad defensively and still pull a max contract. That says everything about how elite he is with the ball in his hands. If the Wizards bring him in, they finally get to see how good these young guys really are when someone's actually setting them up. And here's the wild twist. Trae's not just affordable compared to other stars, but the Hawks might even have to sweeten the deal by sending draft picks just to make it happen. Mark Stein reported that Atlanta could end up giving Washington extra assets to take on Young's massive contract, and that's the real story here. His values dipped hard in this new second apron era, where no contender wants to touch that kind of money, but that's exactly what makes this situation so crazy. Here's where it gets real interesting. The Wizards aren't contenders right now, but they've got nearly $80 million in cap space waiting to be used this summer. So if Trae Young decides to pick up his max player option, no problem at all. They can easily afford that and still have plenty left to move pieces around. If Trae ends up being a perfect fit with their young squad, they could re-sign him later for a much friendlier deal. And if it doesn't work out, they just let him walk. No pressure, no mess. That's what makes this move so unique. Trae Young is basically a free trade risk, and the Wizards are the only team in the league that can afford to roll those dice right now. And just imagine this, if they snag Trae, sign him to a team-friendly contract, and then flip him later to a contender, the Wizards front office would look like absolute geniuses for pulling that off. But this entire situation isn't just about Trae, it's setting the stage for something way bigger. This could open the door for an Anthony Davis to Atlanta move. Mark Stein reported that not only are the Hawks seriously interested, but AD's agent Rich Paul is reportedly very high on the idea of Atlanta as a landing spot. Remember, Rich Paul isn't just any agent, he's the most powerful in the game, and he also represents the Hawks' rising star Jalen Johnson. That connection could make this whole thing happen. So, Hawks fans, you might want to grab that Anthony Davis jersey early because this could get wild. Hold up, there's another major twist that could throw a wrench into everything. Besides figuring out the Trae Young situation, there's a big question about what the Mavericks actually want in return. According to Chris Mannix, I can tell you with certainty the Mavericks have been trying to pry away that New Orleans Pelicans pick from the Hawks for a while now. But here's the catch. Atlanta's front office keeps calling that pick untouchable. Now, the real question is how badly do the Hawks actually want this deal for Anthony Davis? Sure, AD's got that injury-prone label, but give him just 4 healthy weeks in the playoffs, and suddenly the Hawks could be that surprise Cinderella story everyone talks about, especially if they can pull veteran guard CJ McCollum from DC to help run the offense. That would be a massive boost. But is that Pelicans pick really as valuable as people think? On paper, yeah, if it lands with Dallas, that's a nightmare for Atlanta, especially in a stacked draft class. But let's keep it real, that same pick could also turn out to be a total trap. Here's why. Think back to how the Hawks even got that pick in the first place. On draft night, the Pelicans front office, led by Joe Dumas, sent it to Atlanta because they were convinced that snagging Derek Queen would transform their team overnight. And while Queen's been better than most expected, he's not that level of franchise changer yet. So this Pelicans pick, it might not be the gold mine everyone's making it out to be. It could end up being the very thing that backfires on whoever holds it. Alright, so here's the wild part. The Pelicans are dead last in the West right now, and that pick the Hawks are holding is looking juicier by the day. Even with teams like the Jazz, Nets, and Wizards clearly in tank mode, none of them can match just how rough things have gotten for New Orleans. This pick could seriously end up as the #1 overall. But hold on, there's a twist in the rules now. Back in 2019, the NBA changed up the draft lottery system. Before, the worst team had a 25% chance to land the top pick, but now it's only 14%. The league thought that would stop teams from tanking. Spoiler alert, it didn't. What it did do was throw the entire draft order into total chaos. Because of that change, a pick like this just isn't a guaranteed jackpot it used to be. Since 2019, not a single team with the league's worst record has actually drafted #1. In fact, for 3 straight years, the worst team has dropped all the way to the 5th pick. It's like there's a curse on whoever finishes last. So when the Hawks keep calling that Pelicans pick untouchable, yeah, that might just be a clever bluff to boost its trade value. And let's not forget, in back-to-back years, it's been play-in teams, not bottom dwellers, that won the lottery. First the Hawks, then the Mavs. So sure, this pick has great odds on paper, but history says it's far from a sure thing, and the Hawks know that better than anyone. Just one spin, that's all it took for the Pelicans pick to crash. In a single spin, it dropped all the way to 6th, then another spin down to 2nd, then 3rd, and suddenly 5th. One random lottery bounce and boom, the dream of a #1 pick is gone. That's how unpredictable the new draft odds are. The value of that top pick has plummeted, and now the Mavs could push all their chips in for Anthony Davis and still walk away with nothing close to the prize they expected. Sure, pick #5 isn't trash, but it's nowhere near #1. So maybe, just maybe, the Hawks already know this deep down. Maybe that's why they're not scared to finally let that untouchable Pelicans pick go. Because if the odds are this messy, the value's not what it used to be anyway. Now, let's break down what this blockbuster actually looks like after all this Trae Young news. The Wizards land Trae Young and a rough 2026 pick swap from Atlanta. The Mavericks scoop up Kristaps Porzingis' expiring deal, plus Corey Kispert, Zachary Trae, and that shaky Pelicans pick. And the Hawks, they go all in. They get Anthony Davis, CJ McCollum, Max Christie, and a valuable 2031 first-rounder from Dallas. Think about that for a second. Atlanta gets AD and Max Christie, only giving up Zachary Trae and 1 first-round pick, while also gaining another future first from the Mavs. Why? Because Dallas is desperate to get their hands on that Pelicans pick. Meanwhile, the Wizards walk away with Trae Young and a late first-rounder, but they've got to move Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum's expiring deal to make it happen. And for the Mavs, this is their all-or-nothing gamble. One move that could either make them contenders or completely backfire. So the Mavericks end up landing that crown jewel, the Pelicans pick, plus Zachary Trae. And yeah, we've got to admit that pick still carries serious weight because this upcoming draft is stacked. We're not talking about an average rookie class here. No shade to the Zachary Trae draft, but this one's on another level. There are 3 elite prospects at the top that scouts are calling straight up franchise changers: Darren Peterson, AJ Dybonsa, and Cam Boozer. Each one of these guys could completely reshape a team's future. Peterson, Dybonsa, Boozer, they're all seen as generational level players. Imagine one of them landing on the Mavs alongside Luka. It could instantly change the entire West. And as for the Hawks, if they somehow end up with Cooper Flagg, that's a whole new era right there. The crazy part is, Cooper is so versatile he could fit next to any of those top prospects and still dominate. But here's the risky side. As good as it looks on paper, this deal could easily backfire on Dallas if that Pelicans pick doesn't land high enough. Still, since Atlanta keeps calling it untouchable, it makes the Mavs feel like they just pulled off a major heist. This is one of those rare 3-team trades where everyone walks away feeling like they won, at least for now. Don't be shocked if things go quiet for a bit though. There are still about 4 weeks left before the trade deadline, and these mega deals usually simmer for a while. The Mavs are going to test if anyone else wants in on Anthony Davis, and the Hawks will check if another team's ready to move for Trae Young. But right now, this trade's got the whole league watching. Whenever this much smoke starts swirling around the league, you know fire's not far behind. We could be heading into one of the wildest trade deadlines in years, the kind that completely flips the NBA. But guess what? It's not just the NBA about to shake things up. The WNBA is making headlines too. The players have officially voted to go on strike if necessary, and that's no small move. If they actually follow through, it could change everything, maybe even mark the end of the league as we know it. Sounds dramatic, right? But here's the kicker. A major front office insider is already warning that this situation is that serious. The tension's real, and the basketball world might be on the edge of a total storm. Things are getting intense across both leagues. The NBA's on the verge of a trade deadline that could completely reshape rosters, and the WNBA standing strong, ready to make history with their next move. It's wild to think how fast everything's shifting. Stars changing teams, front offices gambling with futures, and players finally taking control of their own power. If these deals go down the way insiders are hinting, we're looking at a whole new era for basketball, from Atlanta to Dallas, from the NBA hardwood to the WNBA courts. Nothing's gonna look the same again. The next few weeks could be pure chaos, and we're here for it. So make sure you don't miss what's next. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on who's winning these crazy trade rumors. And of course, share this with a friend who loves basketball drama, because things are just heating up.